Macmillan Audio presents The Monuments Men, Allied Heroes, Nazi Thieves, and the Greatest Treasure Hunt in History by Robert M. Edsel with Brett Witter. Read for you by Jeremy Davidson.
Author's Note. Most of us are aware that World War II was the most destructive war in history. We know of the horrific loss of life. We've seen images of the devastated European cities. Yet how many among us have walked through a majestic museum such as the Louvre, enjoyed the solitude of a towering cathedral such as Chartres, or gazed upon a sublime painting such as Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, and wondered, how did so many monuments and great works of art survived this war? Who were the people that saved them? The major events of World War II, Pearl Harbor, D-Day, the Battle of the Bulge, have become as much a part of our collective conscience as the names of the books and films: Band of Brothers, The Greatest Generation, Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List, and the writers, directors, and actors, Ambrose, Brokaw, Spielberg, and Hanks, who brought these epic events and the heroism of that time to life for us once again. But what if I told you there was a major story about World War II that hasn't been told, a significant story at the heart of the entire war effort, involving the most unlikely group of heroes you've never heard of? What if I told you there was a group of men on the front lines who quite literally saved the world as we know it, a group that didn't carry machine guns or drive tanks, who weren't official statesmen, men who not only had the vision to understand the grave threat to the greatest cultural and artistic achievements of civilization, but then joined the front lines to do something about it? These unknown heroes were known as the Monuments Men, a group of soldiers who served in the Western Allied military effort from 1943 until 1951. Their initial responsibility was to mitigate combat damage, primarily to structures, churches, museums, and other important monuments. As the war progressed and the German border was breached, their focus shifted to locating movable works of art and other cultural items stolen or otherwise missing. During their occupation of Europe, Hitler and the Nazis pulled off the greatest theft in history, seizing and transporting more than 5 million cultural objects to the Third Reich. The Western Allied effort, spearheaded by the Monuments Men, thus became the greatest treasure hunt in history, with all the unimaginable and bizarre stories that only war can produce. It was also a race against time, for hidden in the most incredible locations, some of which have inspired modern-day popular icons like Sleeping Beauty's castle at Disneyland and The Sound of Music, were tens of thousands of the world's greatest artistic masterpieces, many stolen by the Nazis, including priceless paintings by Leonardo da Vinci, Jan Vermeer, and Rembrandt, and sculpture by Michelangelo and Donatello. And some of the Nazi fanatics holding them were intent on making sure that if the Third Reich couldn't have them, the rest of the world wouldn't either. In the end, 350 or so men and women from 13 nations served in the Monuments, Fine Arts, and Archives section, or MFAA, a remarkably small number in a fighting force numbering into the millions. However, there were only 60 or so Monuments Men serving in Europe by the end of combat, May 8, 1945, most of whom were American or British. Monuments-laden Italy had just 22 monuments officers. Within the first several months after D-Day, June 6, 1944, fewer than a dozen monuments men were on the ground in Normandy. Another 25 were gradually added until the end of hostilities, with the awesome responsibility of covering all of Northern Europe. It seemed an impossible assignment. My original plan for this book was to tell the story of the Monuments Men's activities throughout Europe, concentrating on events from June 1944 to May 1945, through the experiences of just 8 Monuments Men who served on the front lines, plus 2 key figures, including one.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?